Welcome to the Cyberculture Cafe series by Cyber Talks, presented by eSentire. I'm Andy Lalaguna, and I'm here with my friend and colleague, John Moretti. Together, we're excited to introduce you to some fascinating members of the eSentire family. In this series, you'll get to know their story, the challenges, their successes, how they got here, what motivates and drives them to deliver the best service experience in the industry. This is Cyberculture Cafe. Welcome to another episode of the Cyberculture Cafe podcast, where John and Andy will introduce you to another fascinating member of the eSentire family. Welcome, Mark, to the podcast. Please give us a brief introduction of where you are within the company now and your current roles and responsibilities, and we can start there.
Sure. Hi, Andy. John, thanks for having me, guys. My name is Mark Gillett. I am a Vice President of Product Management here at eSentire. As a member of the product team, we're basically the everything team here. We're the ones who decide what it is that we're going to do. Now, we don't actually do any of that. We hand that down to the smart people, our engineers, our SOC team. But as a product manager, my job is to understand, what MDR is, what the market is, what the technology is doing, where it's going, and setting that general strategy and direction. And then allowing the rest of the company and helping guide the rest of the company to deliver on the things that we think ultimately what we need to do to deliver to our customers.
So right off the top of the bat, before we go any further, so you have an idea and you're like, you know what? This is what we see other folks are doing. This is a great idea. Here's how we can change it. So you bring that idea and you say, here you go. You guys make this happen. Pretty much.
That's the start. I wish it was that easy. But
right.
Yes, ultimately, you get an idea. You see where the market is going. You see what the competition is doing. More importantly, you talk to your customers and you find out what they need, what they want, what their pain points are, and you develop that germ of an idea. And then it is a highly, highly collaborative process. It starts with a line item or a single slide or a one-page pitch document. And then it iterates from there over days and weeks and sometimes months as you drill down and you peel that onion and you go down the what ifs and the permutations. And sometimes it gets rejected. Sometimes it doesn't make sense. Sometimes it doesn't work. But as you bring more people to the table, as you get deeper into the company and people who do the actual jobs bring their opinions, you then build this really cool plan. And that's when you set loose and you go and you build it.
But it starts with the idea, though. You have to have that idea. And sometimes, do you ever think to yourself, all right, I have an idea from listening to customers and partners and seeing what's going on out there. Hey, this is a crazy idea. I'm going to bring it to the table and see what happens. I mean, did you ever have an idea that was like so crazy that you're like, this is never truly going to work? But, we're getting asked for this, or we see this out there.
Oh, all the time. Every idea seems crazy at first.
Right.
For example, here, eSentire, as a relatively small MDR provider, a couple of years ago, we said we want to have our own platform. We don't want to ride on a brand name like a Splunk or a Microsoft Sentinel. We said it's very important to us to control that last mile, to curate our analysts' experience and our customers' experience with the actual work of investigating and hunting. So we said we're gonna own the tech. We're gonna work with everybody else. We're going to be an open integration platform, but we're going to build our own stuff. And at the time, we had literally a handful of engineers. It was an absolutely insane idea, but here we are 3+ years later, and we are now. This is all now coming to fruition. So it is really. It's really cool to see it. 3 years ago, this was tough. It's been a tough 3 years to get there. There's been a lot of very hard work, but now we're starting to see the gains and see the fruits of all that work.
I mean, it is also, I know we just launched that, Atlas Nexus, right? That's giving our platform, you're giving it to a partner that has a SOC, and they're going to run it, their SOC or their services through that platform, using our platform, using our technology. I think that's incredible now. I mean, I think you're right. It's come a long way, because I remember when I first started, it wasn't like it is today. It wasn't even called Atlas. It was called Artemis or something, right? It was a different platform, and we migrated everything over. And I love that. And I remember too, I like the idea and you brought this up first. And I remember, God, this was years ago too, at one of our kickoffs. You said, we're going to build this XDR gateway. I'm thinking, when I heard that, I'm like, that's going to be killer. I mean, that's going to be kick ass. I'm excited for that. And now it's just, we're building that now. We're bringing that to life now. And I think that's exciting. Like, so for you, do you ever, when you had these ideas and it goes through this process, then you look back 3 years, you're like, wow, look at that idea I had. And we collaborated and look where it is today. I mean, that must be, and that's exciting. I mean, that's kind of, you know what I mean?
It is really sad. It's exciting and it's satisfying.
Right.
I've been doing this for a very long time. So it's strange how every time I start one of these major projects, it's hard to see the end from the start. And it's very difficult. But when you do get to the end, you look back and say, man, it all made sense. We got there. Right. And then you start a new one and it looks just as hard. It looks like just as an impossible mountain to climb. I find I have not learned from the past. I've been, we will get there, but like any long-term project, it's not instant gratification, right? It's a marathon, not a sprint. All the cliches are there. And it takes a certain discipline to come up with a strategy and stick to it. Something I'm very proud of. And I think you heard this at the last kickoff where I've been showing the same strategy slide for 3 years. I just keep changing the date at the top. And that's not me being lazy. That's what strategy is. Tactics can change. Strategy shouldn't. If someone who keeps changing their strategy, swerving all over the place, you're not going to get anything done.
They don't have a direction.
You have to have conviction in what you're going to do. You got to stick to it. Now you make tiny swerves along the way, right? Sometimes maybe you do sometimes things don't work and you have to be able to cut your losses. But if you do believe in what you do, if you've done the research and you've done the work, you got to stick to it. And it's times like this year's a big year for us where I'm like, yes, the last couple of years we've been kind of under the covers, building the foundation, doing the unsexy things behind the scenes. Now, like you said, Nexus is out. That was always a design intent. You probably heard me say this a million times together, is that everything that we decided to build starting 3 years ago had to be built with the idea that we could hand it off to somebody else. That it wasn't necessarily going to be built for just our people, that we could take shortcuts and cheat and say, well, it's just our folks, who cares? The design intent always, if you build a widget, if you build a thing, envision giving this to someone that you can't walk down the hall and talk to and explain to. It has to be user friendly enough that you can give it to a partner or even potentially a customer. Right. And that's why this works now, because everything we did had that design vision in mind.
Yeah, and you said one thing. It's like, with your job, you can't see you have the idea what the big picture is, but you can't see that light at the end of the tunnel because you have no idea what you're gonna find along the way. And to stick with it, that's amazing. I think that's incredible, and I love what we're doing. So real quick before we dive into some of your personal stuff, what do you have an idea right now? Right, you've accomplished this amazing thing right now. Right, got Atlas cranking, a lot of great stuff happening, all these things on our roadmap. Do you have an idea right now that you're like, okay, I got this idea. Here's what I want to do. What do you guys think? This is going to roll out for years, just like Atlas, right? But it's a new idea, something unique, something different. Can you share anything like that? Just a brief, nothing. You don't want to give everything away, but something small.
Well, I wouldn't say it's necessarily unique. And in this, in 2025, as a technology product manager, I'm legally obligated to say AI. So
right.
let me get that out of the way right now, right? So now I'm covered for the rest of this time.
Right.
Now I'm old. And I'm an old dog, and AI is a new trick. So I'm a bit of a curmudgeon on this whole topic. But I do think that the next big thing is how to use Gen AI in a legitimate operational way. Like this Gen AI it's the top of the hype cycle. It's being forced into a lot of things. I think truly general application doesn't really work. But we're finding, and we're starting to work with agents and bots in our SOC. We have an amazing training set. We're not using a model trained on the general internet. We have 25 years here of highly labeled security data. We've been doing investigations. We've been doing full threat hunts. We have that library. So we can build really, really smart AI to bootstrap and lift up our analysts. Now, I think my big idea is we're never going to replace the humans. That is the fundamental belief that I've got here, is that anytime we bring AI or ML or any kind of automation into our SOC, it's to make the people better. Because at the end of the day, having that smart analyst who really cares, who really wants to solve the problem, you can't replace that. And you don't want fully automated SOC or a fully agentic MDR. That is never going to work. Right?
Yeah,
So
that's like
my
Skynet.
big,
It's
like,
just you know what that. I mean, that's crazy,
So
right?
my
All of a sudden,
You
everything's
still
taken
have to
over.
do the work, right?
you still do the work. So my big
Exactly.
belief is get the
Yep.
AI to lift up and raise the boats. Give the analyst the cool problem to work with. The AI can take care of like the blocking and the tackling, and it's always human. It's always expert in the loop, right? Human in the loop, expert in the loop. At the end of the day, it goes through our people. That's the next big turn of the crank. Now we have this platform. We've got this massive trained data set from 25 years of experience. We have an awesome SOC with amazing people. Let's just make them better now.
Right. I love that. So now this just brings me another question, because every time I talk to you now, I got these ideas and these questions in my head. How do you feel, before we dive down again, how do you feel about bringing the SOC dash into the Insight portal? And and by the way, I got a partner yesterday that says, how come you call that Insight portal and not like Atlas portal, or change the name? Because they're like, there's a company out there called
Don't
Insight.
even suggest it, John, because they will.
Oh, we are going to change it. I think we should change that name if we can.
You've uncovered an internal debate. Yeah. One thing we're not great at is naming things. So you've struck a nerve.
We're very good at changing our mind on naming things.
Yeah.
So what it does is important. What we call it is, call it Bob. Who cares, right?
I liked it called Insight because I think that's giving insights to what we're doing for you. I get the name, but somebody partner said to me, "How come you call that?" I'm like,
it's just the Atlas UI. It's the way you access. It's the way you access what Atlas is. And I get where you're going for the first part of your question was the SOC dash, the old console that the SOC analysts use. Yes, we're bringing that to the portal. Ultimately, what as a customer of ours, what we see, you should see. It's your security, it's your data. We believe in a fully transparent SOC MDR service, right? 25 years ago when we started this business, cybersecurity wasn't a thing. It was a black box, was fine. Make this problem go away from me. That's not the case anymore. People have security teams. It's a shared responsibility model. So basically stealing from AWS's cloud pitch. It's not you can't do it, but we can't do it at the same time. We need to work together. And the way we work together is we share information. So we are working towards this full transparency. The same queue, you could log in, you could basically sit on the board and see the tickets or see the cases as they're going by. It's not like it used to be where you sat there and waited for us to escalate a problem to you when it's on fire. The classic problem with outsourced SOC services is, hey, you haven't called me in a couple of days. Am I that safe, or are you missing something? We don't want our clients to have that concern nagging in the back of their head. They can go into the portal, they can look at all the stuff that we processed and see why we didn't call them, to see what we actually did for them, right? Like, you don't want us to call you.
Yeah, exactly. Is the customer, even though they can have access to see everything we're doing, the customer view is going to be read only though, right? They're not going to be able to go in and mess with what the SOC is doing when they're doing an investigation. Yes.
For the short and medium term, obviously, you can't have two hands on the wheel, right? You're gonna drive into the ditch. So yes, it's our response. Ultimately, it's our problem. Like the frontline work is our problem, right? Maybe in the future we can get to a true shared model where like the client can work, they can log in and be a tier 3 analyst on the shift, and we can pass things seamlessly back and forth. We're not going to be there for a while, but it's just be able to see what we're.
Are we even considering that, Mark?
Oh, of course, it's kind of the platonic ideal, right? If we don't quite get there, if we design to that, only good things will happen.
How would we police that though? Because we need to know that they're at or of a standard to match or exceed the way that we're performing. Otherwise, it's going to be, well, hey, who did what when, and now it's an audit and forensic activity to say, you shouldn't have clicked that button.
Yeah, but if you think about the co-management of the third-party integrations that we have, like CrowdStrike or Microsoft, the customer can go in there inside their stuff. That's their tenant. They can go inside their data and do anything. We have to. Don't they sign something that says, "Hey, we're using this live. Please don't, interact with what we're doing," kind of thing. So I think it would have to be the same, some kind of consent.
Talking stick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
The devil is in the details there. Like I said, it's a kind of a design intent. It's kind of a thought exercise. The actual governance and implementation, that's a whole different thing. But I would love to have that problem in 2 years, to be forced to sit down and write those rules of engagement and write that RACI up. Now, yeah, like John, like you said, we could always go hide behind a contract language saying, "Hey, if you mess up, we're fine." We don't want that. We want to do this for the right reasons. Like, you know, if the client has the skill set, like Andy said, if they have the skill set and the training, maybe there's some kind of training program you have to go through potentially. Who knows, right?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
But the design intent is we want our SOC to operate within the back of their mind, work like the client's looking over your shoulder. Like, we don't want there to be anything hidden, no secrets here. We're all working together. It's the client's data, it's the client's security, and we're their partner in this. So if we never actually do get to a true 100% dual mode collaboration, well, that's fine. But if we land just shy of that, I'll consider it extremely successful.
I think that's a valid point there is this is more of a partnering activity, and we're becoming tighter as a partner with our partners because that's the relationship we always wanted to have. And this brings that significantly closer together. They are effectively becoming part of our family and we're becoming part of theirs. That's always been the premise here.
Right. We've always said, we're truly a partnership. You just hired those folks to work for you. And this is really now true integration where they can see that. I think that's awesome. I don't think anybody out there is doing stuff like this. Nobody that I know of is doing this out there.
Yeah. We
given that visibility.
We want to meet the customer where they are, right?
Right.
As much as I say going way to the right on the spectrum of people want to play and collaborate and follow along at home, we also want to support the same customer or partner who can't do this. This is why we're calling eSentire. I don't want to have to log into a portal and monitor tickets. That's why I'm talking to you. Also fine. So we want to have that spectrum of personas. People who don't have the time, skills, energy, whatever, or interest, all the way to fully co-managed SOC. We want to meet you where you are.
Where you are, yeah.
And provide service to you ultimately, yes.
Would we consider in that regard then potentially almost an education aspect as well, to not just for the customer to increase their security maturity, but to actually proactively drive that improvement through education to bring them up to that level that they can participate?
Andy, you struck on a really important thing is education and continuous improvement. I think that's kind of the next big pillar of what we're doing going forward is changing the concept of reactive MDR or reactive SOC. Traditionally, for the last 20 plus years, an MDR SOC provider, you set up a bunch of detections and you wait for an alert to show up, and then you run around and make it go away, and then you wait for the next alert to show up. The concept of continuous CTEM is the term, continuous threat exposure management, if that's the term that ends up landing, whatever. The concept, though, of educating the users, having a security program, implementing the controls, and getting better every day. And having an MDR provider bring that is rare or is new. Right? So we want to be the it gets better every day MDR. So
this is the transition we've always been in, right? So, I mean, that continuous threat exposure management is, we're becoming more of a security provider than a security service provider, and that changes the landscape significantly. We're here to improve the customer's lot, improve their capability, and improve their maturity. That becomes a responsibility of that. It's going to be, I mean, we're in it now. We're in that transition now. We're moving into that space where we're going to have full telemetry. We're going to have full fidelity, because that's the way you're going to consume the service. You're going to take all of the telemetry and we're going to have a much clearer view. Again, to your point with the AI, and Alex has backed that up, as has Andy Fawcett has backed that up as well, that those tools are starting to appear. They're starting to develop those to a point where they can be released into production. We're starting to get a much fuller vision of the terrain in which we're operating with that particular customer.
Yeah, and I love that it's our own AI. I love that we're developing our own stuff and innovating stuff. And so I do want to dive down to a bunch of stuff for you, but the last thing I just got to read, before I forget, I always, I have calls, and this started with Vince, with the TSDs or masters at the time, whatever you want to call them, of all these great things that we're doing. And the feedback we got from the 3 or 4 that we were doing them with, and we still do them monthly, that you guys are the only folks that are telling us what you're working on, how you're innovating, and all the awesome shit you guys are doing. Nobody is doing that. So I was like, awesome. So I was telling, Ashlyn and my boss and all these things. They're like, we need to have the FCMs reach out to other partners that they have, and let's set up monthly calls. You got to understand the feedback that we're getting. And I always tell, I don't show anything on the screen. I know we have those calls that they show us those things that are coming. I never share that. I just talk about it. I say, look, you obviously know this is roadmap. This can change on the fly, but here's some great things we are working on. Every partner, we had one yesterday with Lamb. They were floored. We had a whole presentation with them, but I also did roadmap stuff. We were doing it. They were like, there is nobody out there doing this. Not one organization. You guys are our top security partner because you guys are not only innovating, the experience you're giving us and our customers is like no other vendor out there. And that was amazing to hear that. Stephen Dennis was floored. He was like, this is the greatest day of my life. He was like, this is awesome. And it was exciting because they were super excited about what we're doing. And they were floored that we're sharing it with them. Here's all the cool stuff we're doing, you guys. Look at this. Look what we're doing. They're like, you guys have changed the game.
Well, and that's super validating. And I think as a product manager, like I love doing that. Anytime I get a call, almost to a fault of doing a tour of the SOC or getting on one of these calls, because selfishly as a PM, I need to get out in the real world and validate. It's very easy to get an idea and then go into the back office and put your blinders on, and then we can all convince ourselves of how brilliant we are, right? And then we pop up a year later and we've missed the target, right? So I need to get out there, and I encourage, like, there's a thing in product management, nothing happens in the office, right? You got to get out there. You got to go talk to people. You got to validate your ideas. And I think in cybersecurity, technology in general, but cybersecurity specifically, it's even more real because the market and the customer, and it's all moving so fast and it's swerving a bit, right? So as much as I say we've had the same strategy for the last couple of years, and I'm proud of that, is there have been tactical adjustments because there are movements. And so you have to get out there and talk to people and validate and say, hey, is this still a good idea? Is this still your pain point? Things change, right? Like the whole Gen AI thing popped up, like we saw it coming, but it blew up. So we had to make some adjustments, and we were working on that. We went and purchased Versive. What was that 6, 8, 10 years ago?
When I first started, they just joined. Yeah.
Ultimately, that was an acqui-hire. That was Dustin's like a brilliant mind in ML and all his data science guys. That's why we went and got those guys. We've had that. It's not like we. Oh crap, OpenAI came out. We got to do a Gen AI thing. We were already working on it, but we had to accelerate, pivot a little bit, move some resources around because it became a thing. That's why I like talking to partners and customers and you guys who are out in the field, like the ones who are actually doing the work and experiencing the problems. I need to hear it, and I need to bring that back to the shop, and we need to make our little minor adjustments in our direction to make sure that we're going to hit the target when this next big thing comes out.
Yeah, I agree. I think we can get our partners to help too, because I want our partners to think of us top of mind. Everything with security related, whatever it may be, all the great stuff we're doing, I want to be top of their mind, and that's our goal, really, to build that partnership and that relationship, so they see us as one with them. But all the great stuff that we're doing, I mean, there's nobody out there does it, and every partner I talk to, from the master or TSDs down, no other vendor shares any information with them at all what we're doing, which is killer. And when they hear all this stuff, they're like, you guys are killing it. I'm like, we have an awesome company. There's some great shit that we're doing. Nobody's doing this stuff. So that was, exciting. But my next question for you is, how in the hell did you get started doing this? Like, did you say, were you in college or high school or something, say, I want to do this stuff?
Let's qualify that a bit, because Mark, you seem, certainly over the time that I've known you, you seem to be more settled in what you're doing now. You seem to be more complete in your approach. Has this always been a goal of yours? Have you been able to do aspects of this before? And as John has said, as John has asked, what got you to this point where you seem more content exercising those muscles?
Yeah, I'd love to say I had this origin story when I was 3 years old, and I, saw, it's not, like everybody's life, it's a series of backing into things, right? I got the indication of my first cybersecurity job while bartending, right?
Wait, hold on. So
Best
you
job in
were
the
a
world.
bartender?
Best job in the world. Absolutely
Get
best job
out
in
of
the world.
here.
Everybody
Dude,
should
I
work.
would have never guessed.
Everybody
Get out.
should work service jobs or help desk jobs before they go into real life. It makes you much more empathetic and problems.
So how long did you bartend for?
3 years through college.
So can you go bartend right now if you wanted? You can just do like a side gig and do like a bartending job. You know all the drinks.
I'd love to go back to it. Maybe once all this stuff is done and I can go back to it. I can go full circle. But
yeah, I also ran a pub for about 18 months, 24 months.
So wait, when you said you run a pub, you were a bartender too?
I was manager.
Son of a bitch, I got to become a bartender. I thought about that.
The best job in the world, 100%, as Mark said, best job in the world.
Never had more fun. Personally, I was a quiet CS student, right? I barely spoke. I was a programmer nerd type kid, and they shoved me behind a bar in front of 300 people, and it's amazing how you come out of your shell.
So wait, so were you married while you were bartending? This is in college before you. So you were like, you must have been going crazy with the women. Must have been like nuts at a bartender.
I'd love to say yes, but no. I'm a serial monogamist. I had a long-term girlfriend through the whole thing. Ultimately, it wasn't the woman. I didn't meet my wife until after I graduated and it was steady and one. But I did not live the fast and hard lifestyle. I facilitated everybody else's fast and hard lifestyles by
there you go. That's it. That's awesome. Bartender. Wow.
So bartending during college, what happened next? What was the progression from there?
Well, ultimately, it was very serendipitous, really. So I'm old, so there was no such thing as cybersecurity back then, right? I was going through school to get a computer science degree to become an application developer, programmer type person. Now, I had already had an inkling that, in my small town, and in my small high school, I was kind of the computer guy. I was the programmer guy. But I moved up here to Waterloo, where the University of Waterloo and Wilfrid Laurier University are two very prestigious universities. I thought I was smart. I wasn't that smart, or at least when you come across these brilliant minds in this town, I had a bit of an existential crisis as I was going through, where I was fairly competent at it, but I wasn't some of these geniuses I was kind of sitting next to in class. So I was getting a bit concerned. And then literally one night while working behind the bar, a young woman at the bar she was a HR intern at a small cybersecurity startup. And I overheard her complaining to her friend that they weren't giving her, they weren't letting her interview people. And they weren't letting her actually do the HR job. She was just basically pushing paper and getting coffee. And I kind of interjected in the conversation. I said, "Hey, I'm a computer guy. You can interview me as a kind of a throwaway,
Get the hell.
And they brought me in, and I didn't screw up the interview enough. And they brought me back and brought me back and brought me back. And then the irony was I still had another semester of school to get through. So I had to take the job provisionally. And then, start 6 months later, had to basically walked out of my last exam into my first day of work. Had to skip a day of work to go to my commencement ceremony. So it was no gap year for me. I went straight from the frying pan into the fire.
So what did you do there? What did you do at that organization?
So I started out as the technical trainer, actually. I found my perfect niche where I knew the programming language. I got my CS degree. I got a Bachelor of Science in Computer. I am legitimately a programmer, but as a bartender, I learned to communicate. So I became the interface. I became the guy who took the code and took the program out to the customers. Now, at the time, we were building before the term didn't exist yet, but we built a SIM. So I took the SIM platform out to clients and basically went out there for a week, and I would hook it up, rack it, and stack it, and train them on it.
That's killer! Wow, son of a bitch! What year was this? If you don't mind me asking.
Turn of the millennium, the year 2000.
You're not that old. I'm way older than you.
He's not that old. I was going to say you feel old, Mark, but you're not.
Yeah, dude, I started back in Novell. And it was actually Novell 215. And if I'm not mistaken, and I could be totally off, but I remember, if I can remember right, the Novell server at the time, the 2.51, whatever it was actually a dual mode. It was client and server. Like, I think you can reboot it and do, right? Was it like that? And then it went to 3. And I mean, I've been doing it since then. I mean,
Some of
Let
those
me tell you,
Novell installations are still working now.
dude, Novell was the shit. Microsoft just marketed better. They had a GUI interface. People want to click on stuff, and it just took off, man. I
used to
dual
deploy
certifications in
Novell,
that.
Windows, and Citrix together.
Oh,
because
Citrix, dude.
Novell was stable enough, we could make it authoritative.
Yep.
And then Citrix would just deploy and present out whatever we needed to present
The
out.
best.
And that
the good old days.
I know for
Yep.
a fact it's near here, actually. It's still working.
I remember there was a customer that had a server. They couldn't fucking find it anywhere. They had it in a closet where it was the sheetrockers came in, or the builders, they sheetrocked the server in the wall. It was in a little tiny closet. It was a closet at the time. They took down some of the stuff. They sheetrocked it. It was over I remember, over 600-700 days. And they were like, I don't even know where this server is. What the hell are you guys talking about? They finally found it and took it out of the wall. But that thing was running and running, just stayed up. It was amazing. But yeah, those were the good old days. So you're not that old. I
got to talk to you guys more often, because like I'm speaking to new colleagues who were literally they were toddlers when I got started. So I need to come back and talk to you guys.
I've got T-shirts older than some of them.
Yeah.
It was the same stories for all of us, right? I remember setting up network infrastructures on a collection of desks pushed together, and it was all there. Everything was there on the desk, including the green screens. It's come a long way in quite a short period of time, to be honest. And I think that's part of the challenge, right? I mean, obviously you've got to predict based on an assumption that there is light at the end of the tunnel, to your comments earlier, Mark. And obviously you have to do the work. That sort of creativeness comes from constant repetition. So what do you do to encourage that constant repetition? What do you do to encourage the doing of the work to approach the potential light at the end of the tunnel?
I think it's somewhat easy in cybersecurity because there is the mission. It's not some abstract idea. It's not, and especially here at eSentire as a relatively smaller company compared to some of the big dogs in our space, is that you're solving something real. You see it in our industry, you guys know, it's when it makes like the news, when stuff that we know and work every day breaks into normal life, right? And you see it every day. And so there's that mission of we're legitimately stopping bad guys, hands-on keyboard attackers. That's really the day-to-day motivation, right? It's definitely not boring, right? It's not that you have to talk yourself into it to make, widget A to plug into slot B to increase gross margin by 0.5% on my whatever report. Yeah. It's every morning we get a threat briefing from our threat intel team, and it's full of all kinds of scary stuff out there. But it also finishes with the commentary of here's what the team is doing to detect and prevent this from affecting our customers. And me as the product guy, I have to make sure that the platform is there, that these folks can do that and adapt to new attacks and new techniques tomorrow.
Selfish request. Selfish request. If you're getting a briefing daily, they should video that, please. And that should be available for the entire company to consume. That information is super, super useful. We've been talking a lot about, for example, stories from the SOC, and we're working with Gabe to make sure that we're getting more of those out. And those should be appearing via the website, and there should be more stories of that you'll likely get from your reps or your partners for you to consume those. But certainly for the threat briefings, if they're happening on a daily basis and it's 5-10 minutes,
love that.
That should be posted internally because that's of value to the entire organization.
100%. And because those are stories that we can use while we're pitching and talking to partners, talking to customers, and they're different. I don't want somebody to say, oh, I just heard that last week. Same thing that you said. No, we see new stuff every single day. These are all crazy things that are happening. They sound far-fetched, but that's real information. So to have that, every day would be, I listen to it and start my day off like that, because those are the things that be like, okay, they're going to they're going to be in my mind and they're going to resonate with other folks. This is why.
We could bother Derek with that when he comes on.
Yeah.
Yep,
No, that's
exactly.
awesome.
Well, good news on that front. Not so much of the video every day, but a big initiative this year is to take those threat folks and put them front and center. 3 years ago, they worked underground. You never heard about them. Last couple of years, we've tried to put some focus with kind of ad hoc stuff. They're getting a place in the portal this year.
That's
They'll
awesome.
have their own dashboard, so you'll be able
See,
to see
that's
the threats,
important.
see the research, and that's again part of that whole platform that we're working on. Is we've moved all of the TI work. It's now in our single consolidated data lake. That was step number one. That was the hard part. Now that all the data is together, now it can all be linked together. So now we can show you, hey, here's your threat case, and here's a link to a threat advisory dealing with the activity inside this threat case. Or here's a threat advisory. Here's all of the assets that you have and all of the threat cases you have that are associated or somewhat linked to this advisory. So it links both ways. So, or just get that morning briefing.
If I'm using Investigator then in the portal and I put in a request, potentially could all of this information be surfaced in the response because it's now part of the common data lake?
Yeah, that was the heavy lift over the last few years. Is everybody here had their own database, their own tool, their own scripts. Every department kind of ran their own stuff. Last couple of years, it was a huge data governance thing of saying, hey, we partnered with our friends at Snowflake. We have built this data lake, data ocean, whatever you want to call it. Everybody had to come to the table and move their stuff out of their old RDS or their old whatever, their old MySQL database sitting, drywalled into a closet somewhere. Move that data up. It's all in the same place now. Now we're all just linking it together and cross-querying it.
So now these are bringing questions up to my mind. They're just popping in my head now. Like, oh my God, I got to ask because it's those stories. So we're adding and putting everything into the Insight portal. I love that. I think that's awesome. First of all, how far off roughly would you think that we are from that XDR gateway? And is that going to change everything once that's out? Like, is that going to be, here's our stuff, and it's going to be, I'm assuming it's going to be the physical appliance, the virtual appliance, and then the cloud appliance with those modules. And now as a customer, I can say, okay, I want to enable this, enable this, enable this. I have those features. I'm subscribing to it, right? Just like you do with a TV service or anything you have now. And then when I don't need it anymore, or maybe I want to downsize a little bit, maybe my office has changed, whatever it is, I can unsubscribe and do those things. So that, I think it's unique. I like it. It makes me a little nervous, to be honest with you, because I still want, I would think we want to be involved when customers are doing certain things, or, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want them just turning shit off without them realizing what they're doing, but it's giving them that flexibility because at the end of the day, it is their data. It's their environment. We are just providing that it is still a service, watching everything going on. So, again, how far off are we from that? And how do you feel about it? I know that was your vision a while ago, and I was excited when you talked about it. I still have a slide from back in Fort Lauderdale on our SKO that is that XDR gateway, the customer's environment, everything's living here. I think it's the best slide that we can have one slide and we can tell the whole story right there with everything. So, I mean, I know I'm throwing a lot at you and there's tons of questions because my mind is just like blowing up now when you're on the call here, but how far off are we from that vision?
Well, we're in the finals. We're in the home stretch, basically. So a couple years of work. So Gateway is coming this year. Hopefully sooner rather than later. We're down to those final touches right now, basically. So the base chassis is pretty much ready to go. Like you said, a naked technology core. It's a managed physical box, virtual machine, or cloud instance, and the trick now is to load on the apps, right? The network module, the asset module, the log collector, the vuln scanner. So the vision was it's a service delivery vehicle. So we're totally SaaS-based. We have a totally cloud-based platform. That's fantastic. But we need that. And the original code name for this was the Beachhead project. We needed that beachhead into your environment where we could just to handle the physics, right? So whether it be in your cloud or in your data center or in your office, we needed to get at the packets that were flowing there, or we needed to be able to transmit an API call to your firewall sitting under the desk at the local office, but we can't get to it necessarily from our cloud, right? So just having that device, like John, you kind of mentioned it quickly. The analogy I use is like that most cable cable systems now give you that one box.
Right.
In the old days, you had your set-top box, and that got you your cable TV channels
all through your house.
Yeah. And well, that's what it does now. But what it used to be was you had one box per TV, and you also had an Apple TV to stream Apple, and you had a Roku device to get your Netflix on, and you had right. And now you have this omnivorous device where, in the case here in Canada, Rogers, I can put the Netflix and Apple TV and Plex apps on the same box that runs my cable channels. So all those other boxes, it's one device. I can turn on and turn off those apps, right? To move the analogy into our industry, it's a UTM. Remember back 10 years ago, you could buy that one device and it had an AV scanner, a web proxy, a firewall, and an IDS.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
I'm just taking that idea and pushing it forward into the jobs that MDR does. So, MDR needs to get logs. We need to see your packets. We need to push API calls back into your environment. That's what we'll do.
And I love that it's all our IP. It's all our IP. We're going to get our agent out there. I love to, and I always stress this out with partners when we're talking about it. And I did a big thing yesterday, which floored them, by the way, that we're bundling our agent with those other agents and why we're doing it, right? Hey, we can write to our agent. We can't write to the code of those other agents. We can support them and do all the great things with them, but it's technically not our tool, right? It's CrowdStrike's or Microsoft. So we can write to our agent, but our agent's connecting directly into our platform. We see stuff before it even pops up sometimes in other things. And I always use that story and that analogy. It's not like it's, 5 minutes later, it's in CrowdStrike. I'm still, it's still 30 seconds or 40 seconds, but we're seeing information and getting it before it pops in those other guys and it lets us get ready for what we need to do. Right. So, I think getting that information and extending our platform out to our customers through that gateway is awesome. I honestly think it's going to be a game changer when those modules and apps are on that sensor. And I'm sure for you're probably thinking, well, here we're going to have an essentials and then the core, the big guy and then the other guy, with all of our IP on there, and then they can still subscribe to those third-party integrations that they have. Now, will that be easier to set up doing it that way with those APIs and things like that? See, that's
exactly
awesome.
What we want is there's a kind of a table stakes base layer that you need to do the job, right? Like what we're trying to do is make sure that we can fulfill our service promises, and putting things together piecemeal just leads to problems down the road. So like you said, there's like that essential package where we make this statement saying, hey, look, we need to see this signal and we need to have this API access and we need to have these hooks into the environment to do the job. And we don't want to get into like selling the car one part at a time, right?
Right.
We're talking about the benefits of a car. Now, we can discuss the beauty of internal combustion and talk about the racing tires that we've put on it and the beautiful coachwork. Those are all the individual signals that make up the car, but we're selling you the car. We want to help you drive a car. So having our gateway, having our, the ability to get network telemetry, having something to get log data through, having our own agent to be on the endpoint, that gives us the table stakes of if all you did was get our stuff, we can deliver on the promise and we get this consistent base layer, this solid foundation to do the job. Now, you want to make it better, you can layer on a CrowdStrike. You can hook up logs from your Palo. There's,
see, that's cool. More integrations like that
only makes it better, right? So we have a platform, but we're not a closed platform. So if you wish to go with us and use our agent and our network sensor and our logging platform, great, we can deliver the promise. But if you add CrowdStrike, if you add more logs, it only gets better. It's more telemetry, more vectors, that sort of
thing. This is more of a strategy approach, though. This is the result of a strategy that's leading the customer to the response. I'll draw an analogy, a more public analogy. It's the difference between Ferrari and Lamborghini. Ferrari sell bits. They don't necessarily sell a lifestyle. Lamborghini sells a lifestyle. You don't need bits. You need a complete story. You're driving a Lamborghini because of the attitude you have. And that's where this strategy comes across, is that attitude. The pieces that you've mentioned today of the things that are potentially coming this year bring that strategy together. It's a more complete message. if we were to be unkind, we would say that we have to have telemetry from all of the sources, because that's the only way we're going to give you the outcome. If we
Right.
have a full, clear picture on which to decide to act, we have to have all of the telemetry. Well, no, turn that on its head. The strategy is you need this outcome, therefore we have to take all the telemetry. So I don't care where it's coming from. We'll ingest it. We'll bring it in, we'll use it, and we'll come to that conclusion, and we'll drive you a conclusion, because when we tell you something needs to happen, it absolutely needs to happen.
100%. And you can use the analogy too, like, I wouldn't just have one fire alarm in my house, right? That doesn't do me any good if there's no fire there, and there's a fire burning down the back of my house when I don't have a fire alarm there, right? You have to put it all over. You have fire alarms all over your house just in case, right? So you can have that visibility in case something happens. It makes perfect sense to me. So, I'm excited about that. I like our packages. Now, are the packages going to be able to integrate with the new gateway thing coming out, our new appliance and our new services coming out? Like, I see us 3 years from now having the packages and the gateway, and the customer gets to choose when they pick essentials. Here's the gateway that they get, and here's your packages. Boom, boom, boom. There you go.
Exactly. Yeah. The agent, the gateway, that was all envisioned where, basically we could have 10 packages. The base of every package is our platform. Everybody gets a gateway. Everybody gets all the apps on the gateway. Everyone gets agents. And then it's only a matter of tweaking to fit the environment and to take on additional, potentially, like, you want to add CrowdStrike, you want to add SentinelOne, you have Microsoft, great, let's add those in. Realistically, what we want to do is shift the discussion from fighting about, like, in the back to the car analogies, instead of fighting about internal combustion and the tires and the individual parts. Let's get to this base level of signal and telemetry. And what is MDR? MDR is seeing the network, seeing the endpoint, seeing the identities. Let's now talk about what kind of SOC service do you really want here? Is this, do you want black box, 100% white glove, full service, high touch? Do you want a shared responsibility model, where it's a co-management, play along at home type? Do you want monthly service reviews with one of our CSMs? Do you need a technical account manager? Do you want to engage with our brilliant vCISO and CRA teams? Let's stop talking about the parts of the car, and let's talk about, once you now have the car, do you want the V6 or the V8?
I just went through the training that I watched your video, the unlimited log, and all the training that we got assigned in HighSpot, and that was exactly it. Don't worry about what the packages are. What do you want, Mr. Customer? Do you want this, or this? Great, we can accommodate you, and here you go. And I like the idea of, so the packages, and even when we're talking about the gateway, I think, because the gateway really is the foundation now. Here's your security foundation. Let's build from there. But I like the integration to some IT teams that may feel like, oh, they're going to take my job. They're going to, you know what I mean? I'm getting kicked out because these guys are doing everything. I like the co-management. I think that's important for certain teams. They feel like, I have these guys working with me. They're part of my team. My job's safe. I can take care of my other day-to-day things I got to do. And they got my back. And then you have the other customers that want, hey, do everything for me because I don't have a team to do it for me.
Exactly.
I think that's important. I love that idea. I think it's going to be exciting. I think it's going to change our slides. I think it's going to change our talk track. I think it's going to be the way we're going to be doing things. I think it's killer. I'm super excited. I'm like so excited about it. I actually started talking to partners about it before. I said, we have some great stuff coming out, fellas. You guys are going to be dying when you hear what we're doing here. It's on the roadmap. Here's what we're doing. So to have our gateway come out this year is truly not only exciting, but it's a game changer in the industry. Nobody's doing that at all.
The fundamental of the gateway is that it lowers the barrier to entry. It's doing the same things we're doing today. We have a network sensor. We have a VulnScan sensor, right? It's just, like, as you guys know, scoping it and fitting it into environments can be difficult. So the gateway simply lowers that barrier of entry. Is that we don't want to be talking about, network topology diagrams as a make or break to let us deliver our service to you. So by making the gateway kind of an omnivorous device that is physical, virtual, and cloud, that can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different things in different combinations, we stopped talking about, do you have rack space for a 2U at this location that has access to this span port? And we can talk about what we actually want to do. The actual reason we're here. We're not wrapped around on the feeds and the speeds and network topology and data center discussions. We say, look, we've got this thing that it'll fit. It'll get there. It's going to fit 80 to 90% of cases. Your VMware, great. Your AWS, great. We have an image for that, right? You've only got this many resources. Okay, so we're going to run a lighter weight version. We're going to have that optionality so that you guys at the front end speaking with our clients when we're actually getting down to business can actually talk about the business and not like network diagramming.
Yeah, exactly. And this actually ties everything back to the beginning of our conversation. When you have those ideas and you start planning it out, you got these couple different things and how you're going to bridge them together. Hey, I got the gateway and stuff. I have the packages. Eventually, they're going to meet in the middle. And here you go. Now I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, and everything we've worked on brought it back full circle. And it really changes, I think, the direction of what we're doing and where we're going.
You touched on your getting into the industry after running the bar and working the bar and falling into what amounted to the precursor of the SIEM revolution. What happened next? What got you from there to here?
It's funny. I mentioned that I was basically the center of the universe. I got acquired multiple. I changed my resume shows all these different company logos, but I didn't get out of my same desk. My company got acquired and acquired and acquired basically. Not until I came to eSentire did I actually do something bold and make a move. So my original SIM company was a small local startup, very small, very agile. When I say I was the technical trainer, everybody did everything else as well. Sometimes I was in the next cube farm to the support desks. And if the phone was ringing a lot and the support person had walked away to use the washroom, I walked over and picked up the support phone and did a support call. That's the kind of company we were 25 years ago. Now, unfortunately, it didn't quite work out. So we got sold once, kept the same name, but got sold to new owners, got reincorporated as a new company, changed from being Canadian to being American. Then that we continued to build our SIM, and then that company got bought because a large service MSSP service provider wanted to get into MDR, and they needed a platform, and they thought they would buy my company and we would convert my SIM into their platform, which we did. It was successful enough that company got purchased by a very large telecom. So I went from a 70-person startup to one of 30,000 working for a foreign telco, right? And then after 19 years in effectively the same company, at that point, I had worked my way up. I had worked as a technical trainer. I went back and did some engineering, some development for a while. I team-led a development team. Spent 8 years running a quality assurance team somehow, right? Managing a QA team. Eventually realized that this man of all hats or many hats job, that was the job description for product. So I went and said, let me try this product management thing. And then word got out, or people got to talking, and Chris Cassell, my boss here now, as he says, that there was a cybersecurity product manager with 20 years experience that lived 5 miles down the street from eSentire's head office. And it was horrible on him that I was hiding here the whole time. So Chris made a very aggressive play to bring me over to eSentire. Now, I had known about eSentire for 20 years. We basically grew up together. My old SIM company was building hardware platforms to do security, and I always had my one eye on this service company that was inventing this thing called MDR. And at one point, we literally had offices just across the highway from each other. So it wasn't a huge leap for me to see what eSentire was doing. I came here and I met the people in our beautiful office here, like I said, a couple of miles down the road from my house. It seemed fairly compelling to come over. And now I've been here for 5 years.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
So it's basically a story of stumbling backwards into cool stuff.
But you started, you built, like you said, you did all these different roles in your last organization that prepared you for what you're doing today.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So,
And in your defense, you had an eye for what cool stuff was. So you were direct. You did direct yourself, right?
We are lucky to have you here for sure, because there's some great things that we're doing. And every time we have listen to you on the calls or what, dude, it's truly exciting. And it's like, wow, man, we are doing some great stuff it truly gets you inspired to listen to it and tell people. It's amazing. So let me ask you this. If you had a time machine and you went back 10 years, maybe even longer, maybe 15 years, what would you tell yourself then? Would you say anything and you say, hey, you should do this, change this, or would you just keep it the same?
I'd say Apple stock, I think, is one thing you would say.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. Like Forrest Gump. Hey, let's get some Apple stock like that, and boom, forget it, you're rich. Yeah, I that's one thing I'd probably do different too. Yeah, for sure.
I don't know if I would necessarily change anything. Like I said at the beginning, like it's not like I had some big grand overriding vision. I'm not that kind of person, right? Where I kind of, I know what I want to do. I know when I'm enjoying myself, and I'm a bit of a workaholic, right? So this industry helps. It's a lot of work to do. So no, not really. Maybe I would have come over to eSentire sooner, gotten in more on the ground floor with you guys. But no, fundamentally, everything I've done, I've enjoyed, whether I meant to get into it or not. I've always been in cybersecurity, I guess. I've always been fairly niched out as a cybersecurity provider. But as far as going, doing engineering work, doing QA work, leading a team of QA engineers, that's interesting. Even coming here, when I came across eSentire, I was an IC, individual contributor product manager, and I was pretty cool with that. Just run my own shop, have my own product line, and be measured on the success of a specific subset of the larger thing. So when I got moved up the chain to the VP role, I became a people manager again, which I didn't think I ever would want to do again. Having responsibility for the overriding vision, is as difficult as it is day to day. Ultimately, I've never not had fun doing it. I wouldn't change it.
How do you feed that motivation then? How do you keep that fire burning?
I think I said this earlier, where we have the luxury of being in an industry with a very real outcome, where it's bad guys doing new things every day. For better or for worse, this industry is not static or set. We're not, legal or accounting or finance, where there's hard and fast rules, where you have a textbook for everything, and it's been there, done that. Every day there's a new attacker, there's a new technique, there's a new thing. You're always chasing something, and there's really unfortunately, there's really no end in sight. Is cybersecurity is an ongoing issue. We need to be here defending and coming up with new defenses every day. And that's what keeps me motivated, is that it's not boring. It's not the same thing every day. Sure, it can be frustrating as a product person to have this grand vision and build this 3-month project and have to go back to the engineers and swerve. Nothing pisses off an engineering team more than changing their direction. But things change. New techniques came out. New problems arose. That's exciting.
Yeah. So is it fair to say that's what gets you out of the bed in the morning, right? Getting, hey, I got who knows what I'm going to see today. I mean, it's exciting.
Exactly.
I mean, that's,
So if somebody wanted to get into this, what would you suggest that they start?
I don't know. As old guys, it was much different how I got into it. I got into computers because my neighbor got a Commodore 64, and that really intrigued me. And I hacked away at it and that sort of thing. But now there's courses, there's courses in school for cybersecurity, and that still blows my mind. One of the things that we do really well here that I'm really impressed by is that we do have that talent feeder from our SOC, is we're partnered with multiple local universities and colleges and stuff, and we get involved in these training programs. So I think to get into this there's courses now, there's whole tracks, there's SANs, there's conferences, there's the big stuff like your black hats and your DEF CONs, and then like the B-sides types thing. So it's a whole community, and it's a very vibrant, either unofficial kind of behind the scenes community, or go to a university and take Cybersecurity 101 as part of a computer science track. There are no barriers to entry. There's a million ways to get into this industry, but you have to be curious, and you have to be willing to understand that you're never going to be right all the time. You're never going to solve the problem. Will evolve. You'll solve part of the problem, and then the problem will just change, and there's another problem to solve tomorrow.
Yeah, that keeps things fresh. It keeps us exciting, because really, when you think about getting into cybersecurity today, you can do many different things. You can be an analyst. You can do this. There's so many different ways you can go. So, I like that. Getting there and understanding what cybersecurity is, and from that point on, hey, this is what really interests me. Maybe I want to go down that path and stuff because it's part of cybersecurity, but there's so many different roads that can go off. But I like that. And that's interesting. Okay. Very cool.
And then there was always, I guess, a product manager. I guess I should shout out my profession, but every industry has product managers. The idea of somebody who's there as kind of the consolidator of ideas and the leader of direction, cybersecurity notwithstanding, that there's product managers in hard goods and manufacturing and stuff like that too, right? So product management is also extremely exciting and interesting because you're in charge of what's next, right? And it's a very collaborative job. You have to work with everybody else. It's not just you, but you get to be on the front foot. You know what's coming. I get to do these calls, like John, like you said. People get excited. I get to bring the exciting new news.
Yeah, that's cool.
Selfishly,
that's exciting.
That's a real fringe benefit that I've got here as a product manager. So here we tend to bring product managers who are operators, like me. Right? I didn't want to be a product manager when I grew up. I was a computer programmer who backed his way into PM. Most of my team is like that. We're basically the poachers here. We've got ex SOC analysts, we have ex engineers, we have ex field folks. But product management is a discipline. We also have a small group of people here who are legit, classically trained product managers as well, right? So both skill sets are very important. Both motivations are very important. That's what makes this job exciting. You could be a cybersecurity guy who happens to be product managing, or you can be a product manager who's getting into cybersecurity. It's all very cool.
It's all very cool, for sure. So I guess one of my last questions as I'm thinking about, because I got so many things running through my head now. It's so exciting, all the great stuff we're doing. I can't wait to see it, be honest with you. But where do you see yourself, 3-5 years from now? Where do you think you'll be? What do you think you're going to be doing? Same stuff? Exciting news? I mean, what do you think? Would you ever go back to bartending? Who knows, right?
It depends on when you ask me and what kind of mood I'm in.
Right.
Honestly, I can't see things changing too fundamentally. Like I've been doing this for 25 years. Short of a very dramatic midlife crisis, I just stay the course. I love it here. I love the people here. I'm very dedicated to my people as well. I wouldn't want to leave them behind. The mission's not complete. The job's not done. Now it's never going to be done. So it's a bit of a perpetual thing. But I see myself continuing down this path, leading, the authority in MDR. Right, we're one of the best, and I want to make us the best and keep us the best. And I just keep doing this. Now, I would like to slow down eventually, maybe a slightly early retirement if it's allowed. But I don't think I'll ever truly get out of this.
Yeah.
Don't delude yourself.
I mean, the reason why I ask you that is because what we want to do is have you back on, 6 months from now, 9 months from say, hey, here's what you told us 6 months ago. What do you think? Have things changed that much? Where are we going? What's happening? I mean, to get that news and to share that with everyone, I think is important because, again, it just shows how much we're innovating and changing the game in the industry. I really think that's what we're doing. And it's exciting to be a part of that for sure.
Absolutely. And I'd love to be back both for two reasons. One, yes, to talk about the changes, but I want you guys to bring the receipts, right? I don't want a product guy. I'm not making idle promises here. I like it when I go on with a partner or a customer or you guys 6, 10, 12 months later, and you guys bring up an old slide and say, hey, what happened to that? Right. I want you guys to call me out. I pride myself, and we as a product team we're not, BS artists here, right? We like to talk. We've been talking about a lot of vision here and like very far reaching kind of big pie in the sky ideas, but we want to deliver what we want to say. We want to say what we're going to do and then do what we said we were going to do. Right. So absolutely. I'd love to come back and talk about the how the concepts have changed, but I wouldn't mind a little bit of time of bring out the actual receipts. Where is the gateway? You said it's coming this year. It's the end of the year. Where is it? And if it's not here, I'd love to explain why, but it better be here.
Yeah. No, I hear you. And that's, again, it circles back. I mean, it started with those amazing ideas, and just to talk about those ideas and where we've come 3 years, 4 years from now and what we're doing. And it's a game changer, and to have you on talking about that stuff truly it's inspiring. I'm so excited. I'm actually going to go back to my slide deck and make sure I always have all that one slide back from whatever 4 years ago. It says, hey, think about this. We're going to have a gateway. Here's what it's going to do. And now that it's almost here, that's like,
Yeah, this is a
That'd be
fun
a
time.
game
Like,
changer.
this is a lot
Yes.
of things are coming together. This last 6 to 12 months, and then the next year, it's basically as long as I've been here, really. So early from when I came here, we made that pivot. We had just gotten kind of a bit of a proto platform up into the cloud. We christened it Atlas, but it's been 4 years of very hard work behind the scenes to set us up.
Sure.
And now we can break out into the open field and go running a bit, start actually putting cool outcomes on top of that platform. All the good work we've done to date has been done, while we've been building the plane in the air, which is
Right.
difficult. Um,
Right.
I'm excited what we can do now that we have that solid foundation to work from. I'm really excited at the possibilities of what we can pull off.
I mean, I'm even thinking, and this is kind of nuts too, but think about once you have the packages and you have the gateway, and then now we have Atlas that we can, the Atlas Nexus, we can provide that. You can sell a whole package to a partner or a customer. Say, here you go. Here's everything: the platform, the gateway, the different tools that you're going to need, or incorporate your tools into here, and here's how you'll do it. I mean, I think that's a game changer. I know there's no one out there doing it. Yes, we have some other competitors that sell their platform, but it's not the same. It's not the same platform at all.
Right.
So that's a big differentiator for us. So I think, love to have you back on and chat. I know it's getting time for you to. You have another call. You said you have a hard stop for today, but it's been truly amazing having you on. I mean, it's just having you on, talking to you about this stuff. I didn't want to talk too much about work, but just every time you're talking about something, I'm like, oh my God, I just get crazy thinking about all these ideas. I get so excited. And sometimes I go off on a tangent. I admit it. All right. But it's exciting news, and it's shit you got to share with people, because they're like, you guys are changing the game again.
Yeah, I'm glad you went where you
awesome
did. You mentioned you might get into personal stuff, so I'm kind of glad I managed to avoid that by talking.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to find out more about when you were a kid doing some other stuff, but we're going to bring that up. We'll bring that back on and have you on.
Next time I'm on, I can talk about my minor hockey coaching career. I can discuss that. 90 minutes.
I wanted to bring that up about the coaching stuff for you. I mean, that must be exciting. Is that what you do? Real quick before we go, is that what you do really to outside of work when you got to let go and just release and not think about anything? Is that what you do? You do the hockey?
Yeah, primary hobby during the winter, at least. So I play a little bit of hockey, but not well. But my real passion is I help coach my daughter's rep hockey
That's
team.
awesome.
I'm super proud of her. She doesn't take after her dad. She's actually got some skills, and it's a great group of girls. A bunch of 14 and 15-year-old girls. That's not most people's idea of a fun group to have to manage, but it's an amazing group. We over the weekend we just qualified for the provincial championships, so we're going.
That's awesome.
Next month we're going to the playdown tournament next month, so we're all very excited.
I got one question. Did the girls fight like the boys? I'm sure they get pissed off and start swinging and shit. I mean, I'm sure they go nuts.
There's a little bit of that. My daughter's she has some grit. She's kind of unpleasant to play against. Amongst themselves, they all love each other, and they're all good kids. And that's women's and girls hockey is just as competitive and just as tough. But there's as someone who came up playing men's hockey, there's a level of, I don't want to say respect there, but they just get along a little bit better. It's not quite as it's not brutal. It's not quite as brutal, but they can be. My daughter, she's got some sand.
That's awesome. Well, that's great. Congratulations. That's awesome. Good luck with that. See, that's good that you get to do that stuff and coach, and that's important, right? Watching those kids develop and doing that stuff. It's incredible. That goes the same thing with what you're doing with work. Watching these things developing. I mean, it ties it all together. So that's awesome.
Exactly.
Well, Mark, thank you for joining us today. Thanks for being a part of our podcast and bringing this stuff out. These are incredible stories and stuff. And thanks for taking the time.
Oh, really. It's been an absolute pleasure. I appreciate you guys giving me the chance. Thanks a lot.
Okay, so let's wrap that then. Mark, absolute pleasure as always. This has been another episode of the Cyber Culture Cafe series, part of the Cyber Talks podcast presented by eSentire, the authority in managed detection and response. To learn how eSentire's next level MDR service can help you strengthen your security program and build cyber resilience, please visit eSentire.com. Mark, as always, a pleasure. Thank you very much for taking the time today to talk to us. We look forward to the next episode and having you back in the fullness of time to listen to or hold you accountable for all the promises you've made today.
Yes. Right. Exciting. Thank you again, Mark.
Thank you very much, guys. This has been great.